Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, or yeah, I guess pretty much everyone that's tuning in live, it's good afternoon. So here we are. It is week 2, and we are going to be talking about spine stretch and open leg rocker today. And I wanted to put these two exercises together because I think that spine stretch really sets us up for our open leg rocker. So if open leg rocker isn't going so well for you yet, keep working on your spine stretch, because basically I like to think about your spine stretch is your open leg rocker is your spine stretch, but you're just rolling and rocking back and forth. So as always, if you have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat. If a question came up from previous tutorials, feel free to pop it in the chat. And let's get started. So I am going to play spine stretch first because that's what comes forward. And I want to say that there are 1,000,001 ways we can do these exercises. So I'm going to kind of keep it succinct and stick to the questions that I get and I've gotten. And then if you have other questions, subscribe to the platform, come to a live class, and we can kind of unpack specific variations for your body. Okay, so here we go with the spine stretch. Let me just pull up the exercise here. Okay, so you can think back, I'm just going to scrub this back, I'm never quick enough. You can think that we just finished in the classical sequence, we just finished doing single leg stretch and double leg stretch. And most commonly in the Anonymous Pilates Club and in my live group classes, we would have also done 3 more ab exercises. So this is like your cool down moment. You're like, oof, catching a breather. That was just really hard work. And now we want to catch some air. So you'd finish your exercises, whatever they are, your ab series, laying down on your back. And then you want to come up in a symmetrical way. Okay. So here I'm just choosing to lift myself up with my arms. You're going to sit with your legs straight out in front of you, your feet flexed, and your arms reaching straight forward, shoulder height. I'm going to talk through 3 variations today. Begin to curl the chin to the chest, bending your upper spine forward. Think about bringing your head down between your knees, and then you roll your spine up and sit straight again. What's really important with this is you are sitting up straight through your lower back. Okay, you are not leaning forward towards your toes. The goal is to not touch the toes. The goal is to stretch your spine. Another variation that I like to work on in the APC is hands attached to the thighs, sliding your hands towards your ankles and then rolling back up because it mimics the shape you're going to be in your open leg rocker. One important thing I want to note is notice that I am initiating from my head. That's going to make sure you don't bypass the muscles in the back of the neck. Okay, now, sometimes I like to hold that for a bit. Last variation is flat palms on the floor, straight spine leaning diagonally forward. You curl and you actually physically push your hands down into the floor. Okay, and then you roll your spine back up again. So you curl the chin to the chest, you physically push down into the arms, and then you roll your spine up again. So I like to think this is like I'm spreading or pushing pizza dough forward, and then you roll your spine back up again. So don't worry, we are going to review that, but that's essentially those 3 variations. And I don't necessarily choose to do one variation over the other depending on the skill level. I think that they're all pretty much similar skill-wise, but I like to mix up the variations because they might give you a little aha moment. So for instance, for me, the second variation, sliding the hands, reaching towards the ankles, that was an aha moment of, oh man, okay, this is my open leg rocker. Okay, so I'll go back to that thought, but I'm just going to scrub back to the beginning, and I am going to cover the first question, which is, I can't sit up straight for the life of me, basically. You feel your hip flexors gripping, the spine is rolling back, and the answer to that is super simple. You sit on something. If you have 2 yoga blocks, putting them side by side, that's an excellent choice. You want whatever you sit on to be firm. A pillow isn't the best option because when you sit on it, it squashes down. So you can think of like a bolster. A foam roller is okay, but it does roll around a little bit. Coffee table book, something that's bigger than your butt. Records, if you don't want to damage them. You can even do this sitting in a chair. So that's the most important thing. So if I go to the start position, so again, we're going to come all the way up And we're going to, I need to wiggle. We're going to pause here. So you can see that my spine is in its natural curves, but the lower back is straight. So oftentimes when you're tighter in your hamstrings and in your hip flexors, this position is going to be really challenging at first, and that's your first obstacle. So that's where you're going to sit on something firm, and you'll know that you sit up, you've chosen the right height of something because you'll be able to all of a sudden sit up straight through your lower back. Okay, it's okay to have a little bit of hip flexors working here. Our hip flexors work with our core and with our postural muscles, and if you tend to be someone that leans forward a lot, that means your back muscles are more dominant than your core and your hip flexors. So you're going to train yourself to sit in this more efficient alignment. Okay, so that's tip number one. Also, that might be like not even necessary. Maybe you could try even just bending your knees a little bit in order to achieve that straight spine. And I want to say that this is not a weakness if you need to sit on something or if you need to bend your knees a little bit, because if you don't take that modification, let's call it, you're never going to get the full benefit of this exercise. If your lower back is rounded and gravity's pulling you down, you're not going to feel the same benefit in your spine. So that's my first tip. Absolutely make sure you do it the best that you can in order to sit up straight through that lower back. Tip number two, super important, initiate from the head first. So if I think to myself, here I've brought my chin to my chest, and now I'm going to keep coaching myself to bring my head down between my knees. It doesn't matter if it gets there. That's the direction. I like to think about curling my head underneath my rib cage. Okay. Now, so those are my two tips. My last tip is to keep the feet flexed. That'll take care of the stretch to the back of the legs and keep your legs energetic. Now, to link this to our open leg rocker, I am just going to scrub this forward a little bit. Okay. This is the variation that I find if you're struggling to make the connection between open leg rocker and spine stretch forward, this is the variation that I would choose to play with for a bit. So on my last rep here, I'm going to curl forward, I'm going to reach, and I'm going to pause. And at this moment, wherever you grab, it doesn't have to be your ankles, it's going to be your shins, it's going to be wherever you can reach to for that day. And you're going to feel your hands physically push your legs forward, and you're going to pull your waist backwards actively, okay? So you're really solidifying the feeling of your hands holding your ankles, your shoulders connect deeply down into your back, your spine is rounded, you're feeling that stretch. Your core, think about your belly button being like a thumbtack, and there's a balloon at the back of your spine, and you're going to pull that thumbtack as close to that balloon to pop it as possible. And so you've created this very concrete position, and that's what you're going to utilize to roll in your open leg rocker. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to the intro screen. And I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to keep flowing. I hope you're all well. I have to say, like, my demonstration of open leg rocker is not the best. It's a struggle. So I just want to use this, and I decided to not keep filming over and over again until I got it right, because I want you to see what it's actually like in real practice, right? Some days it's going to be like, oh my gosh, that just worked. Light bulbs are going off, pat on the back. And then some days it's like, I don't know, there's a huge disconnect. And this day that I filmed it, it wasn't working for me. But you still get the idea. It's not a complete disaster. But I want to say, have fun with this exercise. If I have a client that's having like a rough day, or maybe they're taking things too seriously, or I don't know, whatever, maybe there's just too serious of a vibe, we're definitely going to roll around because it's fun. And at the end of the day, we're doing this because it's for our health and it's for our spirit, and you know, we can't take it too seriously. So let's go on to open leg rocker. Here we go. Okay, so I very matter-of-factly just scoot forward. Okay, make sure there's nothing behind you, of course, and you're going to grab the insides of your ankles and you're going to look down. Tip number one, look at your pelvis the whole time. Okay, you might be taught to like look up, look down. I've tried doing a few things, but in the past year from teaching so much mat Pilates, I found that teaching my clients and my students to look at their pelvis the whole time, is going to help keep them round. So remember, I talked about this a few tutorials ago. If you want to sit up straight, look straight on the horizon. If you want to extend your spine, lift your eyes. If you want to round your spine, look down. It's just going to help everything be so much more natural. So we're going to start off with a prep, and then we're going to go into 3 different variations, okay? So the first prep is you're grabbing from the insides of your legs. You're going to tilt back, bring your feet up off the floor, and balance in that position. Then you're going to straighten one leg and bend, and then you're going to straighten the other leg. I usually like to do this just 3 times, alternating sides, and what you're watching for is your pelvis twisting, and you're just going as straight as you can with your legs without your pelvis twisting. This is you getting to know your internal GPS. If you feel like you need to hold that stretch for a little bit longer, okay? Once you feel like you're happy with those stretches, I did this quite quickly. I usually like to hold for a second or 2, straighten out the pelvis, make sure everything's all organized, and then I'll go over to the other side. If I feel like one leg is really tight that day, I'm going to spend a couple extra seconds there because that tight side is going to cause me to twist on the floor, okay? Now, once you've mastered that, you're going to straighten both legs. And now straight is an option. If you can't straighten your legs completely yet, that's more than fine. And our first variation is going to be hands at back of thighs. You're going to look down, roll to the shoulders, push your legs forward, bend at the breastbone, come up, balance. You don't touch your feet down in between if you can help it. So you're going to start to master control. Next thing, hands hold the back of your calves. So that will be your next progression once you've mastered the thighs. Okay, you're rolling back and then coming up again. Once you feel like you've got a good handle, that's when you're going to go for the full-blown, grabbing the ankles, and you're going to see this is where it's harder, right? So you're going to try to balance when you come up. Sometimes you won't have enough momentum like that right there. And sometimes you might even have too much momentum and your feet kind of slam down. Okay, so this exercise is really going to be different every single time that you come to the mat, okay? You can exit this one of 2 ways. I am choosing here to just put my legs straight down onto the floor, okay? Because we're doing Joe's order and it kind of makes sense. So I think my biggest tip with open leg rocker is just try it. And secondly, don't worry if your legs aren't super straight just quite yet. And as you progress in this exercise, you're going to have to change your approach. So once you've mastered holding the back of your thighs and you graduate to holding your calves, you're going to again have to change your approach. You're going to have to give yourself more of a push in order to come up. And then once you graduate from holding the back of your calves to holding your ankles, the fronts of your ankles, by the way, not the back of your ankles, you're going to again have to change your approach. So basically, let me go back to this screen. Basically, as you progress, the further up your hands go on your legs, the more of a push forward you need to give yourself with your arms and your chest and all of that, okay? So my tip is, with that, my biggest tip is just to look down the whole time and just practice. Don't let your legs go too wide. They're shoulder distance apart. And don't take it too seriously. Do it about 6 times, and what happens, happens. And just keep practicing it. And then think about it next time when you're doing your spine stretch. How did it go last time you did your open leg rocker? And what can you do in your spine stretch to set yourself up for success? Okay? So I don't see any questions in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you've all had a chance to do the workout in the Anonymous Pilates Club. We do the 100 straight through to the spine stretch forward. And this Friday in the Anonymous Pilates Club, we will do the 100 straight through to double leg kick, okay? So now we're gonna get some extension work and we're gonna start to get into those more complicated exercises. So that's your homework. Go and do that workout, put the skills into motion. Tomorrow we're gonna go over the corkscrew and we're gonna just do the corkscrew because there's a lot of different things that we can unpack there. So thanks for watching and I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye everyone.